All right. Welcome back, fellow TFFL owners, to your almost weekly TFFL webcast. We skipped last week, but here we are, Thursday, October 22nd, 2020. We have just finished watching the last presidential debate. We are, like 10 days away from the election, but no politics here. We're going to look back on week 5, week 6 TFFL action a little bit, look ahead to week 7, which has actually started. We got the Eagles-Giants game going on right now to kick off week 7. Carson Wentz is in action for the Aliens tonight, driving me nuts. Panel introductions. I don't think Chief is going to join us at this late hour. It is 10:52 p.m. But as always, our commissioner, Richard Berkman, Lizard's king and ruler. And you've just poured a glass of bourbon?
I did. It's Elijah Craig. It's Elijah Craig. I actually got a shipment just about a week and a half ago. 5 different bourbons. Call out to my brother-in-law. This was a birthday gift. I got 1 bottle for each decade.
Wow.
And there's 2 sort of rare ones. And I had a bottle of Elijah Craig, but he got me a bottle of a private barrel Elijah Craig that's solely made for Bulls Bay Country Club, his club down in South Carolina. Wow. So I'm finishing off the Elijah Craig here. And before I finish it off, I'm going to open the other one and do a little taste test between them.
Nice.
Cheers.
Our IT director, czar and CEO of the K-Wheels, Hank.
Good evening, all. How are we? No politics, but I did vote today in Virginia. I have now voted. So,
the wife and I voted as well. Almost everybody I voted. Voted.
Yep. Votes are in.
Got our flu shots as well.
Got it.
Already did it.
On the flu shot.
I haven't done that yet.
All right, Berto, catch up.
Berto, we expect next webcast. You got your flu shot.
We'll be done.
All right.
Berto, high command from Jack's Giant Killers.
Nick, how are you?
Good.
You said that was an NFL game tonight. It's barely an NFL game. It's on the cusp of I don't know what, but it's an embarrassment actually.
Let me know if I have any reason to get excited in the final quarter here.
Yeah. Hey, I got a little mini, not a rant, but I just want to say one thing about Rich's job as commissioner. I know we've all said this, but COVID commish, awesome job. I'm in a couple leagues, and one league is a lot of issues with the whole COVID thing and IRs and nonsense. So the fact that Rich has run this as well as he has as commish is fantastic and great work. So
thank you very much. I appreciate it. It takes a village, though. Lots of good feedback and collaboration amongst the league. So I appreciate it, and knock on wood. We keep going.
Yep.
And again, we said this from the start. We don't know what we're dealing with week to week. Everybody's going to have to be flexible. Rich has done a great job, but I think the TFFL as a whole, showing once again what a great league we got. We're making it through this. So the Raiders having issues this week. Let's just hope the NFL can keep making it through this.
Yep.
Some headlines I want to go through real quick. Amsterdam Packers no longer unbeaten. Kind of a messy, low-scoring loss in week 6. So the AmPack now 5-1. Senators with that win now on a 5-game winning streak. They are 5-1 as well. Arguably, maybe now the best team in the league. K-Wheels, since we last talked, no longer winless. 2 straight wins, 116 points in week 6 for the K-Wheels. Well done. Turning the corner. And so it's now the Slippery Beavers who are the worst team in the league, 1-5. The fire sale has begun. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And the big NFL news that became big TFFL news, Le'Veon Bell cut by the Jets, signed by the Chiefs, traded within the TFFL, now on the Senators, making loading up for their postseason run. All right, let me give you a trivia question, then we'll get chat. So it's getting tougher and tougher, of course, every week to come up with some sort of interesting trivia question. This may be a little bit of an oddity, but but I think you'll challenge yourself with it. I went looking back at our draft order.
I thought I'd be giving you some fodder along the way to think about some other questions, but I'll keep working on that for you.
Yeah, you probably have to like send them to me on email. I'll forget them if you just say them to me on the air. All right, so I went looking back at the draft trackers, the draft order from the last, I guess, 11 drafts now, 2010 forward. And believe it or not, if you look at the number 1 overall pick in all of the drafts, most of those guys are indeed still around. In fact, go all the way back to 2011. Mark Ingram was our number 1 overall pick, still playing 9-10 years later. 3 guys in the last 11 drafts are 3 number 1 overall picks are no longer playing in the NFL or the TFFL, obviously. I want you to name any one of those. I'll give you 3 points per guy you can name.
Jesus Christ.
Number 1 overall draft picks from 2010 forward who are no longer playing.
Okay. 3 guys.
3 guys. As soon as I tell you, you'll recognize the names and go, oh yeah, he was a number 1 pick. He was a number 1 pick. Just to jog your memory a little bit. You got the whole webcast for this one.
Yeah, I'll have to think a little bit as we go.
And I've already told you 2011 is not one of those years. All right. Commissioner's Corner, Rich, kind of at our mid-season point here. 6 weeks down. We're already into week 7. You've had a crazy run.
We're about a third of the way through. And, this I would say that third of the way through marked a big change. A lot of change took place in the last week. So you had Hank blown out. You had a team go from undefeated to not, undefeated anymore. You had some big trades. You had some coaching changes going on the last couple of weeks here. We're settling into a part of the season where, never mind COVID, and I'm thankful that we've made it this far overall. And I think I might have said this before, but if I didn't, I think come hell or high water, there's going to be a finish to the season. So it'll be whether there's only 8 teams remaining that are able to play. Those will be the 8 teams that go into the playoff and get into a bubble or something, and they finish it off. I have a feeling one way or another, they will never give up the TV money and potential.
If they can make money, yep.
If they can make money and continue it, and hey, sorry, your team couldn't, stick with it. That it is what it is. But it was a big week of change in the TFFL as well. You still got a lot of teams, as you said, without winning records. There's only 3 teams with winning records, I think, right now. We have some exciting games, some big changes and big trades, and you're at a mark of this. You're going to make a call. Where are you? Hank's in the balance right now. If he loses this week, is he feeling like, going to be tough, really tough for now to get out? Or is he going to run the table and take it all home and bring it home, right? We're going to talk about the aliens and talk about you, but, there was a lot in my commissioner report, even though it was a short one, that was summing up a lot of this change that's gone on here. So I think that's where we're at. I really don't have a lot to report. The only thing I will say commissioner-wise is that Michael has sent me a overview of a scenario for us to consider if the season were to come to an end, that we have some parameters around that, and I'm going to share that shortly. So I've been giving it some thought. We'll see how that rolls out, and we'll share that shortly. And thank you, Michael.
Is this like Trump's healthcare plan? We'll
wait 2 weeks. Wait 2 weeks. Wait a couple weeks, and I'll roll that out for you. Okay. TFFL socialism is coming.
Right. No. So, Rich, you just hit on a big point, and I'm not going to belabor it because it ties into Hank's next segment on our standings. But it is an important point. Only 3 teams with winning records right now. Hank, why don't you show us how that looks?
Okay, I will. I'm just going to blow myself up here for a minute. All right. So here's our standings as we go. Senators and the AMPAC after their tilt are 5-1 each. Way to go, Crames. Sponge are our other team, but also coming off a loss. You're welcome, everyone. A lot of teams at 3-3. With the Lizards, Aliens, Hams, Mongols, Devils, all sitting there at even records. 2-4, Fats, Killers, Wheels, hanging on. Beavers, as you mentioned, the 1-5 team bringing up the rear, they began their fire sale today. I had some comments. I don't need to get too much deeper into them now, but I mean, I think Thornburg is I don't know what he's doing, but.
Well, let's make that our segue. I'll jump ahead to the second item on our agenda here then, because the Beavers are the big news of the week in a sense, or they're certainly the big news of the last 24 hours. They are 1-5. We talked about the fact a couple of weeks ago that they had this colossal mistake at the quarterback position, and I'm not just talking about drafting Matt Ryan, but actually playing Matt Ryan ahead of Aaron Rodgers, costing themselves a game. You look at what happened this past week against the Aliens. They played the wrong kicker. They played the wrong quarterback once again. And Hank, I wish this were a real TV show and we could pull out the clip of you saying this is exactly what is going to happen to the Beavers week in and out.
Yes, they brought it upon themselves. He drafted him way too high, and now he feels obligated to go with him. And, Rodgers is giving him enough reason to question his longevity. Regardless, Thornburg, you made this bet. It was terrible when you made it. It's worse now.
So the Beavers, let me tell you something about this team. Again, going back through the archives a little bit, 2017, this team won their division. They were 8-5. Tank the following year, 2018, they go 3-10. They earn the number 1 overall pick. Last year, they come back and they go undefeated, 12-1. And now here they are going back the opposite direction, 1-5. He's already deemed the season a failure. The fire sale has begun. We've traded away Le'Veon Bell, Darius Slayton here in the last 24 to 48 hours. There may Will Fuller part of that trade as well. And this is what the Beavers did to you. And I know the answer to the question of how does a team go from that good to that bad to that good to this, back and forth. Bill now, for the second time in 3 years, isn't even trying. I mean, he has made the decision early on. The season is a failure. I'm selling. I'm looking ahead to next year. And that's how you go 3-10 and get the number 1 overall pick, get a top player that lets you come back strong the next year.
Yeah, we talked about it, right?
Yeah, you disappeared. Yes.
Yeah. So,
all right.
And I think we're going to talk about the Aliens later too, and what you kind of said in your outline stick about middle of the road team or season.
It's going to be a contrast, yeah.
Right. So I think I don't hate what Bill did. I mean, let's face it. I mean, Will Fuller is having a season. There's no doubt. He's like the 10th ranked wide receiver. Is that going to last? The guy is made of glass. I don't know. Maybe he will, but. Lev Bell, maybe it could be that he sold these guys at their high water mark. I don't know, but they're not keepers for him anyway, most likely. So I don't hate the trade. This could be the most he was going to get was a second-round pick. And I think Le'Veon Bell going to the Sens rather is the team that makes sense. With Edwards-Helaire there, so that makes sense. So I don't hate it as much as you kind of laid it out there. Yeah, I think the Sens probably won it a little bit, but who knows on that one. But going back to your point, Stick, about the Beavers and alternating, being really bad to really good. Honestly, the Beavers were not going to make the playoffs. 1-5, you have to go, 6-1, right? I mean, minimum to make the playoffs. Like, you're not making the playoffs at 1-5. You got to win 6 out of your next 7 games, and I think Bill realizes that. And maybe we're going to say, oh, he was smart that he's ahead of the curve and he got rid of some of these marginal players that maybe when other teams kind of pack it in here, won't have the same opportunity to do because some of these teams won't be, some of the playoff teams won't be buyers anymore. I don't know, but
that's
the Beavers The Beavers weren't going to make the playoffs, period. So
I want
Hank,
to, sorry, clarifying real quick. I applaud the Beavers for taking the advice of don't finish in the middle. Either suck or go for it. If you're going to be bad, go ahead and be bad and get the high draft pick. I question how quickly and how I didn't feel like there was any kind of, hey, I never got an email, or if you're going to start shopping guys that way, I think you could have got a second for Fuller alone. And he did a second for 7
Can you guys hear me?
And it included Bell. And it's like, I get the Senators makes total sense on their part. They got the backup to Clyde Edwards-Helaire in case anything happens there. And Fuller's a great upside player, especially this week against me. And he should have paid more. I think Thornburg did not maximize his value.
I think there are two angles to this. One is the trade itself. And Phil, I kind of agree with you. I think he could have done a lot better. I think Will Fuller is a potential keeper. Will Fuller is a hell of a talent. He was almost keeper this year. Catch and passes from Deshaun Watson. And as long as he stays healthy, he's showing what he can do. So I think there's the trade itself. Yeah, you're back now.
Yep.
Can I just make one remark on the trade?
Yeah.
So I think I was mostly with Berto. I heard all what he said, and I think I agree most part that if you looked at both players, Fuller never healthy, sparks up for a while and then he disappears. Le'Veon Bell, you don't know exactly what you're going to get. So I don't think everyone would have overpaid Bill for those guys. And I think that he could have gotten a little more if he was a bit more patient and maybe waited it out. But at the same time, he's happy to get a 2 and a 10 and give out some others. He didn't lose on the movement of those. Could he have gotten more? Maybe. But I didn't think he got per se.
To be clear, he got a 2 and a 13, and he gave up a 7 and a 10.
Yeah, he could have gotten better. He could have gotten better. But he still moves up 5 spots, which are much more critical than the back end one. I mean, the 10, 13, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. But point being, you got a second for a 7th. Fuller was worth a second by himself.
I don't disagree, but I also think Fuller is like your 4th guy on most teams, maybe 5th.
If you're going for a pack bowl, that's a valuable piece.
It could be. And why Kramer is willing to do it, but nobody else was, right?
I disagree. Well, like I said, he'll never know.
Right. If he was a bit more patient, is what I said, he may have gotten more. But for some reason, he felt like he needed to pull the trigger quicker.
And I can answer some of that question. Bill did email me asking if I had any interest in some of his players. I'll be honest, as Berto knows, I was a little off the ball this week in terms of responding to trade offers. But I think
the sense.
But I think Bill waited. I did not respond to him, and 24 hours later, he was making these trades. So he was moving quick.
Mm-hmm. Patience.
The other angle I think to this is whether he should have even been trading at all at this point. Berto is saying he's out of the playoffs. He's got to go 6-1, and this may be a nice segue into the conversation we'll have about the aliens. But I look at this and I say he's 1-5. He's only 2 games back, and he's 2 games back of teams like the Devils and the Mongols. He can make up that ground in 7 games with some of the players he's got on his team. Not anymore. But and then again, this goes to my fundamental question of how do the Beavers go up and down like this? Maybe they'll be back strong next year because of this strategy, because they'll go get a top draft pick, and maybe it worked out great for them.
Yeah, no, it definitely could be. I don't knock them for calling it and starting it. I mean, after coming off like an undefeated season, 2 losses feels terrible, right? So psychologically, he may also think like 5. Well, forget it. I mean, I just came off undefeated, right, and lost the Pac Bowl. So hey, I'm already 5 games, out in the loss column. I'm done.
He was done as soon as McCaffrey was done. As soon as McCaffrey went down, I think he kind of gave up and said, this isn't going to be the year. So, like I said, I applaud the idea of let's finish at the bottom. That's fine. I just feel like you've totally missed an opportunity to get more for the assets you do have. And to your point, Rich, you're right. You know what? He's still only 2 games out of his division lead. He could win the division.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay, so I think there is a nice segue here into talking about the aliens, doing a little alien dissection, as I said. But let me just ask to confirm this before we get too deep into this. We don't talk about the aliens too much on the webcast, right?
No.
I don't want to.
I'm excited to talk about the alien.
Okay, good.
I think we steer clear of a lot of aliens talk. So this is
Welcome.
And it ties in well with the Beavers, who have taken the strategy of selling off and very aggressively trying to come back strong next year. We've talked previously this year about the Mongols and how they're kind of stuck just missing the playoffs. So I think you could conceivably look at the aliens as a bit of a rich man's Steel City Mongols, a team that maybe is just on the right side of the playoff line more years than not, but doesn't win playoff games. And I'll just rattle off some numbers here for you. 7-6 in 2015, wild card berth. We did have a playoff win that year, actually. 8-5 the next year, division title, no playoff wins. 7-6 in 2017, did not make the playoffs. 5-6-2 in 2018 has been our worst year in the last 5, but 5-6-2 is pretty darn close to 500. Not a disastrous campaign. Last year in 2019, 7-6, wild card berth, no playoff win. So all in all, it's a 538 regular season winning percentage over the last 5 years, 4 winning seasons in 5 years, 3 playoff berths in 5 years. Again, no disastrous campaigns that I'm embarrassed about, but 1 playoff victory. No draft position along the way any higher than number 5 overall because of the fact that we are just squeaking into the playoffs. We're not getting those stud running backs at the top of the draft. And all of this really leads to a couple problems. Not only don't we get those top tier rookie running backs at the top of the draft, but when you're scrambling to get into the playoffs, the aliens have found themselves trading away the first round picks they've had in some of these drafts and not even getting a number 8 overall pick to use. Here we are in 2020. We're 3-3, doing the same thing all over again, it looks like. We have the Mongols and the Devils on our schedule coming up these next 2 weeks. We might be, let's just call it 4-4. We're going to be hanging around again. How does this franchise chart a new path, one way or the other?
So I thought the aliens were going to be terrible this year. So I'll be blunt. I thought you were going to stink. But you got a pretty good team, and things have kind of come together a little bit. So yeah, I mean, that's the whole name of the game is making the playoffs, right? And one of these seasons could have, the 8-5 season in 2016 or whatever, or any of these seasons really. It's all about making the playoffs, and then you got a shot to make a run, right? And it just didn't pan out. Maybe it's making that big trade towards the end of the season, or I don't know. That could be it. But again, I mean, the goal is to make the playoffs every year until you mathematically can't make it, or like the Beavers did. They've said, "Hey, we're packing it in right now." So to me, it's on the right path. This is what you want to do. You want to have 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 5 winning seasons. That's great. I mean, sure, you'd like a 10-win or a 9-win season in there, but it doesn't matter. You got there, and you're giving yourself an opportunity to win a Pac Bowl. It just didn't happen.
Yeah, I think, look, I'm your division rival. I've been playing against you for a long time. Always highly competitive, and figuring out a way to be so during the seasons. I think Berto's hitting on something, but I don't necessarily think it's from a lack of trying a trade or two. The big move, meaning I think you have made trades. I think you have tried to find the right point and make a trade. But to Berto's point, maybe it hasn't been hard enough. You know what I mean? Like taking that leap to it, right?
I
And right
made
now,
some.
I called. I mean, this season for where you are at 3-3. I looked at it and I said, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors here in the commissioner report this week, because I think that you have been the beneficiary of your schedule and who you've played to a degree.
This week,
Where on the other hand, Hank has not, right? And those are two ends of the spectrum, and I've been on both ends of those before. We all have, I think, at some points. Maybe statistics favor one team's more than other, but you also play in a division that has been highly competitive. And all three of the teams have fallen, sure, the Fats have risen or the Lizards have, and we've both fallen. But for the most part, it's always competitive where we all end up in the middle of the draft to some degree.
That's part of it.
I kind of feel the same way quite often. I think I've probably had a number one pick once, maybe twice. All along. And I think that's part of how the division's made up and what it's been. And it's been really competitive for a long time.
I think if you look at the Aliens and stick, we talk about your team quite often. Looking for the stud and looking for the guy who's going to be the leader for your team is a continual quest. And I mean, Carson Wentz, and it's looking like maybe he's not going to be the guy. Finding running backs that are going to be there. You made the big trade for Melvin Gordon. I think that's great. I don't know that it's totally paid off, but it hasn't been a bust either.
Right.
But you've managed to pick up enough guys like Mark Andrews, who is a fine player to plug in, but he's not exciting to anyone. And you've opposite of what the Beavers are doing. Of if you're going to really suck, the Beavers are doing that. You've never really done that, I don't think, or it's been years since you've done that.
I can't remember it.
And so maybe one thing that the Aliens have lacked is a true superstar or superstars on your team, but you've managed to do very well in putting, puzzle pieces together to be competitive.
Yeah.
It's not great.
He takes a lot of ex-Lizards.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a testament to good drafting, and you've made some good trades, and, so.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, you've done well to have those last 5 years. So, I mean,
Again, I wish we were. I wish we were a real TV show and we could bring back a clip. I can remember this on a webcast 5 years ago. Kramer as a guest, challenging the Aliens to stop, always thinking about next year, and we've indeed, over these last 5 years, made a bunch of big trades to try to get a playoff win or two or three.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my big regret, is all of the terrible freaking trades I've made mid-season. DeMarco Murray from the K-Wheels, Des Bryant from the Mongols, Drew Brees from the Mongols last year. These guys just haven't made the difference, and I've been out draft picks and young players along the way because of them.
Right, that's tough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wish I had made better in-season trades, but I do like to think I tend to manage the draft well and find ways to win enough games. I enjoy going for the playoffs every year.
As you should.
But,
it's hard to make that call when you're going to cash it in. I don't think anybody. And again, look at our league the last few weeks: 2-3, 3-3. You got 6-7 teams right in the middle. Guess what? You look back at the last decade, I guarantee you there's a lot of that, right? Mm-hmm. So it's hard. You don't get to make that call sometimes until week 10, right? 11. Yeah. And that's hard. And then by that point, it's too late.
And I've been the victim on the other side where I've been trying to lose and I can't lose. Crap.
Yeah. I mean, if the Aliens had lost this past week on to 2-4, Rich, if you had hung on and beaten the Mongols,
I mean, injuries, you just never know.
Yeah. Real quick, we'll stop talking about the Aliens here, but it's worth pointing out, Berto has some sort of season simulation app where he before the season he was plugging in everybody's keepers, everybody's draft picks, and he kept texting Phil and me. He's like, every time I run the simulation, Aliens 12, Aliens 12. Like,
things around in your draft.
Aliens were 12-0. Is that what you said?
No, 12th, dead last every time he ran the simulation. I think he juggled something to get us up to like 10th one time.
Yeah, ninth. I think I got you up to ninth.
I like that. I like that. I love that you have simulation software like that. That's awesome.
So yeah, I'm pleased to be 3-3 in it. Like I said, Mongols and Devils on tap the next 2 weeks. I hopefully can squeeze at least one win out of those 2 games and still be in it as we head down the stretch.
Yeah, so Stick, you're pointing out exactly why we are the way we are. I'm 3-3. You're 3-3. The Fats are 2-4. Right? He's within a game of us. I lost to the Mongols last week, a game I should have won that I couldn't, and it just didn't happen. And I play Nick this week, and there's a good chance I could lose there too, and you could win. Then and the next week I could win. And we're back at 4-4 each, right? And still cruising ahead. At 8 weeks into the season, now you're all of a sudden week 11. We're both picking in the middle, and one of us is making the playoffs and then going home, right?
And I will tell you, so at the moment, I am saying to myself, I am not trading for some veteran player this year, giving up my first, maybe not even giving up a second or third rounder. We're not, mortgaging the future anymore. But that tune may change in a few weeks. We'll see.
Well, I think that also has to do with what your team is made up of right now.
Yeah.
Compared to previous years. If you had depth, which you don't, just being honest, then you might think differently. But one guy is not going to change your outcome, most likely.
Correct. All right, let's talk about one more topic here. I think the best division in the TFFL right now is the So-So West. We've talked a fair amount about the Senators, but indeed they're looking like the top team in the league right now, having just beat the AMPAC on a 5-game winning streak. As we said, we only have 3 winning teams in the TFFL. 2 of those 3 teams are here in the So-So West. The Senators, the Sponge Fishermen at 4-2. They're our defending champs. And then we got the Hormel Hams 3-3 on a 3-game winning streak. Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. Forgive me for blanking on this. Aren't they our 2018 champs? We got 3.
They were written off for dead.
Yep.
Yeah. Which you can't do with Patrick Mahomes and some other good players on that team. Are the Senators that good? Who do you guys like in this division?
I like the Senators to win the division, but I do think that the Sponge are good. I think they're really good. I'm not sure the Hams are ready, but you're right. Mahomes is a wild card. It's going to be it's a good battle, but the Sens are tough, and if Kyler Murray plays big like he has been, he's legit.
Yeah, I like the Sens. I think the Chubb injury with Kareem Hunt. He's got Kamara, Edwards-Helaire is playing well. Hopkins is playing well. I'm looking at his team. He's got a few little red X's here, but
he was just gift wrapped Fuller, and he's got a backup now in Bell. I mean,
and he's got Fuller. He's got a pretty good bench. Yeah, I mean, I like the Sens, to be honest with you.
Senators, top to bottom, strongest team in the TFFL. Top to bottom in terms of the depth they've got.
They've got a lot of depth.
Better than the AMPAC right now.
What does that say about Bill going from first to worst and Kramer going from worst to first?
We've seen a lot of this over the years.
A lot of crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Senators are very strong. I think the Sponge are also a very good team. The schedule and the logistics of how it works out could make all the difference. I think the Hams are not going to win that division.
Mm-hmm.
Chief is another person over the years who has shown that he is great in the season at manufacturing wins.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of mocked the Damian Harris acquisition, but I think he's going to get more and more carries as the season goes on. The quarterbacks here will probably get better, Stafford and Newton. The Sponge will be around for sure.
Yeah, I can't. I look back and I go, had I kept Harris over Howard, still would have been no difference. I would have been bummed for the first 3 weeks of the season when Howard was scoring touchdowns every week, and now I would have been a little happier. But a year and a half into a guy who was drafted in a Bill Belichick offense where I think James White is actually more valuable than he is. So, I'm happy that it ended up the way it is, but it's hard.
And I wouldn't put any stock in Damian Harris, being the stud in that offense going forward. Sony Michel looks good every time they give him some carries. Belichick changes his mind scripts the game plan every week to different strengths in the backfield. So
yeah, if Harris was on another team, he would be a starter.
Yeah,
and he would be really good.
A regular. Yep. All right. You keep an eye on this game, Berto?
Not really.
No. Who's
I have
winning?
no idea what's going on.
From what I can tell, Eagles a 3rd and goal at the Giants 5, down by 5 points with a minute to go. Tell us what Carson Wentz does here. While you're watching that, I'll give you guys a trivia answer.
All right.
Again, I'm looking for
show you our answers first.
I'll tell you what I'm looking for. Just to remind you, I'm looking for the 3 number 1 overall picks since 2010.
Interesting. I'm looking at like Hank's picks. I'm like, really?
I don't know if these are right. I'm guessing.
I'm not counting Barkley. Barkley's still in the league, but Eddie Lacy is a correct answer.
Eddie Lacy.
Hold on. Let me get out my evidence here. 2010, the Senators took Ryan Matthews, number 1 overall. Ryan Matthews.
Oh.
Wasn't Daniel Thomas, huh?
2011, as I said, Mark Ingram, another 1st overall pick for the Senators, is still around. Our second player that is a correct answer to this trivia question, Aliens in 2012, traded up to the number 1 overall pick. They didn't earn it, but they traded up. Took Trent Richardson.
Yes, I got one.
That's a good one.
And in 2013, the Steel City Mongols, with the number 1 overall pick, took Eddie Lacy, no longer around. Although I believe he had a tryout with somebody.
Wait. What year did I take Andrew Luck?
You did not take it with the number 1 overall pick.
Oh, did I not have number 1? Did I have number 2?
I think he was like number.
I was like 4th, I think.
Oh, really?
It wasn't like
Maybe
one
my
of the top-
bad.
it wasn't the top
I
pick.
thought he was the number 1 pick overall.
Wait a second. It was.
I thought that was the 1 year I had the number 1 pick. Maybe that was Adrian Peterson.
4th or 5th.
2012, the Lizards took Andrew Luck, number 3 overall.
That's
It
what
was
it was.
Trent Richardson to the Aliens, Doug Martin to the K-Wheels at number 2 overall,
Doug Martin.
Andrew Luck at number 3. Giant Killers took David Wilson at number 4 overall.
Who?
Yes.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
Who?
David Wilson
Who
with
were
the
the
Giants.
Eddie Lacy, Trent Richardson, and who was the 3rd person?
Ryan Matthews was our
Ryan
3rd.
Ryan Matthews. All right.
Nobody had
Did we each get 1?
You and me each got one, Burke. Yep.
Nice.
What about
Berto,
you?
you didn't get this?
I got 0.
What's really funny was that I felt really confident in Andrew Luck, and Trent Richardson was my wait a minute, there was that Browns running back. Who was that? I had to think.
Well get drafted.
And Hank, so real quick, we talked about the Aliens and did they ever get the number 1 overall pick? I have had the number 1 overall pick 3 times.
Wow.
Trent Richardson, again, I traded in to get that pick, but Trent Richardson was one who was a total bust. Hank, you give yourself, at least for your own sake, a half point just for remembering that Beanie Wells was a number 1 overall pick.
How did you know what that is?
He's
What
just beyond the time frame we're talking about. He was back in 2008 or something, but he was a bust for the Aliens as a number
And they
1
say
overall.
you have no memory. Come on.
I just remember Beanie Wells from Ohio State, and Stick had him, and I was remembering him being good. I can't believe I forgot Trent Richardson entirely. I just
That's
remember.
real well.
I was
So-
going to say Darren McFadden, but he was what, 2008 or something?
Yeah, and again, I think when you took him, I traded for him after you drafted him.
Yeah.
The other guy the Aliens took number 1 overall was in 2014, Carlos Hyde. Still around.
Carlos Hyde. He's in the league.
But never really a stud either. So we have not had such luck when we get the number 1 pick.
How many
Adrian
points did we get?
Peterson. What's that?
How many points do we get? 3?
I got 3.
3 for you two.
All right.
3 for each of those?
Yep.
Ah.
All right. Hey, Berkman just moved into a tie with you for second place, Berto. 16 points.
Yeah, right on.
Both still 5 behind Hank.
All right, we got some work to do, Berto.
Touchdown Eagles.
Well, if I had a new archives that I could study,
There you go.
excited to read, I would do better.
A new set of archives.
So it's a shame we're not watching this game. It is 22-21 Eagles right now.
I think you should load more archives into com.com, and then maybe I'm going to figure out how to use more of its automation going forward.
Carson Wentz is on the line here.
Who scored?
Carson Wentz is going nuts.
Carson Wentz is finally putting some points up.
Killer's got 10 points tonight.
Yeah. All right, so let's wrap up here, but we're going to talk about what's coming up here in Week 7. Obviously, Week 7 already in action. Rich, you got a schedule and a game of the week for us?
Yeah, I absolutely do. As reported in the commissioner report, we have the Senators' Wheels as the game of the week. Hank coming off 116. Don't pay attention to com.com. Senators off a fresh trade. Got one of their new players in this week. And we're going to see what happens, but I think that's the game of the week. Hank, as he said, second highest scoring team in the league. Kramer is, right there as in number 2 or 3 scoring, maybe behind Ralph at 500 points. And the runner-up though was the Bro Bowl. We got the Bro Bowl this week between the Geos, and
nice.
To me that always deserves an honorable mention for how it'll go. And I think that you might find there's a couple of evenly matched games this week. So we might be surprised to see the Sponge and Killers, the Beavers and the Fats, the Devils and the Lizards, Mongols and the Aliens. There's a lot of even going on. I think the Sponge Killers are probably the most lopsided.
Killers, you're going to beat them, though.
Let's see.
We're up
see
right now.
Hey, John didn't show up tonight. Chief didn't show up. You did. Half the battle of life is showing up. Are your guys going to show up?
There you go. 10-2. Come on, Boston Scott's showing up tonight.
There you go.
Good Eagles win. I mean, they still stink, but we'll take the win, and Killers putting some points on the board. Love to see that.
That's not, yeah. All right.
Off to a good start.
Eagles are up.
Looking at the game of the week.
Fire of the NFC East.
Looking at the game of the week, I've already said nice things about the Senators. Top to bottom, this is a really strong lineup. I just want to flag a couple things about the K-Wheels and the turnaround that they're showing here. We could have another topic on a future webcast about Derrick Henry as an individual player. This is a guy who, for a couple of years, the K-Wheels, drafted high. We're kind of waiting for that breakout. This guy is a stud that we have not seen in a while. 200 yards
year. I think it was last year I tried to trade for him, didn't I, Hank?
Yeah, there's been a couple of big people who come in with reasonably big offers, and Rich didn't do well. And I'm just kind of like, I'm not trading him. I mean, this is who you want to get, and I have him. I'm keeping him.
This is who you want as a fantasy running back, a big guy who scores touchdowns and who is so good. He is getting a ton of yards. He cannot be
that offense around him.
He is what Adrian Peterson was,
7
years ago.
And LaDainian Tomlinson was years ago. I mean, he's the offense.
He's unbelievable.
And that won the other night.
I'm sorry. Getting a guy who can actually throw the football, and having Tannehill there, versus Mariota has made a huge difference. But this guy is that throwdown of Josh Norman was,
but he does that, and then that 91-yard run the other day was all speed.
Well, that's
the fact that he can move that fast is unbelievable for a guy his size.
He can throw a quarterback like that off him like nothing, and then run for a 92-yard touchdown is crazy impressive.
He's something else.
He is
the other big factor with the K-Wheels right now is the stud they have suddenly got at wide receiver in DK Metcalf.
I always knew he was going to be a stud. It was just a matter of time. There was no.
He's there now. Yeah,
he has all the makings of a superstar. I wanted to draft him.
Hank and I have talked about this. Hank picked one spot in front of me last year when he took Metcalf. I was going to take him a pick later. Ended up with Jalen Samuels instead.
Daniel Jones fumbled the ball. Shocker. Game over.
Who?
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones.
Shocking.
All right.
Yeah. Carry on.
Right on.
You know,
So that's a good game. Hank,
No, DK
plenty of
Metcalf.
ammunition is your point.
We've had the conversation. DK Metcalf was sitting there. I mean, he was a beast. I don't think he had the hype that, like, let's say like CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy had this year coming in. I think he was, one of the better receivers available. I'm not sure if he was the first rookie taken last year. He might have been. But,
no, he lasted to the end of the second round last year.
Yeah, and I had him pegged. I definitely was looking at him. I did a lot of draft planning last year. Like I had it mapped out. I was hoping he was there. So really glad to have him. Justin Jefferson right now, better than CeeDee Lamb, better than Jerry Jeudy. You guys can suck it. All right, go Vikings and go.
I called that one. I was all about Jefferson being the best choice.
All right then.
Just the fact that the Eagles have a guy who's not playing sucks.
Jalen.
Yeah, I mean it's just horrible.
Yeah,
The Eagles drafting wide receivers has been a colossal failure. It's like the Mongols drafting running backs. It doesn't work.
Or the opposite of the Steelers drafting receiver. I mean, Chase Claypool.
Yeah.
The guy the Steelers. Yep. So anyway, Rich, as you said, a lot of good games this week, a lot of close games. Bill referred to this week as moving week in the TFFL. Week 7, midway through the season, we may have some teams, if they go the wrong direction here, thinking a little more about next year. Teams like the K-Wheels, they win another game. They're feeling much more confident about their chances this year. Ham's trying to keep their streak rolling and get on the positive side of things. Berto, 2-4, struggling a little bit. This is a big week for the Killers.
Yep. I mean, injuries, my team just has not. We started off 2-0, and then, man, it's been painful. But good to see Boston Scott putting some points on the board. Maybe this is a better.
Did he score?
He scored. Yeah.
He scored on the last touchdown.
So don't sleep on the slippery beavers and the fats either. By the way, as much as you want.
That's a big game.
It's actually a pretty close game.
The fat. Frankly, given the injuries you're dealing with, Rich, and the state of the Aliens team, I kind of look at the Fats and think that's potentially the strongest team in our division. But they're 2-4. They do have the Beavers on tap. A game in theory they should win. If they don't, the Fats are going to be worried. Anybody who's 2-5 is going to start getting twitchy. Moving week in the TFFL. Good luck to everybody. Go get your flu shots, Berto, and everybody else who needs them. Go vote early if you haven't already out there, folks. Big weeks ahead in America and in the TFFL. We'll be back here next week, Wednesday or Thursday. We'll figure it out. We're kind of winging it these days, but like talking to you guys on Thursday during the game. Stay safe. Good luck to everybody this weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Rock on.
America. Right things. Let's go, K-Wheels.